part of Chapter 6, we're going to talk about parts per thousand, million, and billion. These units of concentration are used for very, very, very dilute solutions and will be most helpful for those of you who are going into a health-related profession, especially nursing. Parts per thousand, so these are the definitions. Parts per thousands is expressed as the mass of solute over mass of solution times 1,000. Okay, instead of mass percent where we multiply by 100, we now multiply by 1,000 because it is so small. The mass of solute versus the mass of solution is so small that we need to magnify it a little bit, so we multiply by a larger number than 100. Parts per million is, once again, a definition that we've seen before, mass of solute over mass of solution, but it's multiplied by 1,000,000 or 10 to the 6th, right? A million has six zeros, so 10 to the 6th. Parts per billion is mass of solute over mass of solution multiplied by 1,000,000,000 or 10 to the 9th. So 9 zeros, 10 to the 9th, that's a billion. You will also find these last two units expressed in different ways. Here's an example for parts per million. You'll also find it as either microgram per gram or milligram per kilogram. And if you see the way they're expressed for parts per million, if you remember that parts per million, you have a million, you're multiplying by 1,000,000. The difference between the top and the bottom is 1,000,000. So 1 gram has 1,000,000 micrograms. So if you remember that, microgram per gram, the difference is 1,000,000. That will be the same as parts per million. Milligram per kilogram is also a difference of 1,000,000. Milli is 1 times 10 to the minus 3. Kilo is 1 times 10 to the third. So the difference between these two is, once again, a whole million. And therefore, you can express it as parts per million. So when you see these two units, you would also know that anything that's expressed as microgram per gram or milligram per kilogram are also parts per million, units of concentration. The parts per billion, because it is such a large number, it's 10 to the 9th, it can also be expressed as microgram per kilogram. And if you once again do the difference between these two units, going from microgram to all the way to kilogram, is a billion, I'm sorry. So that's why this is parts per billion as well. These are three of the concentrations that will be used a lot. Like I said, for those of you who go into nursing, you will see these. And these are for very, very dilute solutions. Okay, this will complete the last slide of chapter 6.